Dr. Paul Savage, MD, is the founder and CEO of MD Lifespan in Chicago, Illinois. At 37, Dr. Savage was a successful ER and trauma physician, but he didn't feel so good and he didn't look so good, according to him. I didn't know him at that point. He was unhealthy, weighed a hearty 267 pounds, smoked, oh my God, was tired, anxious, and unwell. Had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, was pre-diabetic, and under tremendous stress. So he looked for a better solution than taking a lot of medicine. He was born an investigator with keen curiosity, and he was determined to improve his health. So after researching and exploring every method and treatment that promised results, he made lifestyle changes, nutrition, supplements, hormones, IV therapy, stem cell therapy, and now even more part of his studies for both himself and ultimately, I think, his patients. It led him to embrace integrative medicine and an evidence-based approach. So that turns a patient into a partner, something I believed in for my entire career. And he focused on the whole person with an array of scientific disciplines to heal illness and disease. 25 years later, wow, he did a good job. Doesn't look like 25 years. Dr. Savage is healthy, strong, vibrant, and passionate about his life's work, combining traditional and integrative medicine to keep himself and his patients in top physical and mental conditions. His lecture is the featured lecture this morning, Reversing the Biomarkers of Aging and Reducing Toxins with Therapeutic Plasma Exchange. I want to say that I've done this experiment on myself, working with somebody who's well known in the field, Dr. Dibrav, and I found that I reversed my chronological age after getting 3 months monthly treatments by 15 years, my biological age, which I tested also monthly with another group. And then I stopped sleeping enough because I was creating an app that we're working on to do virtual medicine. And my biological age bounced back up more than 15 years. So this is a phenomenal finding that I'm really excited to learn more about. But don't forget the basics. Sleep is one of the basics. All right. Thank you, Dr. Savage.
Yeah. I like to walk around, so excuse me for a few minutes by the sound techs, because I like the mobile mic as well. My name is Dr. Paul Savage, and I am very honored and very happy to be back here today at AMMG. As Flo was telling you, I've had a really interesting course in my life. Having been an ER doctor at the world's largest trauma center, I was the evening guy for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, like she said, I went to see my doctor. He was putting me on my 7th medicine. I smoked, I drank, I worked the night shift, so I had swing shift disorder, although we didn't know what that was, 267 pounds, and really didn't watch what I was eating, because if you worked in the ER, you eat whatever they bring in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's never healthy stuff. It's usually we had pancit or fried chicken or Burger King if things got bad. And my doctor told me, at that time I was 36, and he's like, if you don't change, you're going to follow every guy in your family, because everybody in my family, all the guys, died before 65 years old. Now, that got my attention, and he said he knew I had heart disease at that point as well, at a very young age, and that's a cancer and heart disease are what everybody in my family died from. So I took it seriously, and I thought, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get healthy. And I walked out of his office, and I was walking down his walkway towards my car, and I stopped in the middle of the sidewalk and realized I have no idea how to do that. I don't know what kind of exercise. Am I supposed to do? Lift weights, run? Am I supposed to do I don't know. What am I supposed to eat? Vegetables I get, but which vegetables and what else? I really didn't have a clue for any of that. And I started doing my own thing and working with a trainer, nutritionist, and 6 months later, I'm 13 pounds fatter. And I was like, I was bemoaning to my trainer that nothing was working. And I was having a real hard time gaining muscle and losing fat. And this was 1999. And a bodybuilder walked past us, and he just looked at me, and he goes, one of the big gorillas, he walked by me, he goes, you need testosterone. And he walked off. I was like, dude, that's insane. That causes prostate cancer. It causes heart disease. Remember, this is 1999. But I thought more about it, and I thought more about it. I said, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. I started looking up. I'm an ER doc. I don't know about testosterone deficiency. I started looking it up, and I'm like, wow, that is kind of where I'm at. So I went to my endocrinologist and said, Neil, you need to give me testosterone. He goes, well, I can't. I said, what do you mean you can't? He goes, you don't qualify. What do you mean I don't qualify? My testosterone level's 90. And he goes, it's illegal for us to prescribe testosterone for you because you don't have a head injury and you haven't had an orchectomy. It's in the Anti-Steroid Abuse Act. And I was like, that's insane. So then I go, what everybody did at that time, I'm going to look on the black market to try to find some testosterone because I'm sure that's what I need. And I started looking online, and I found Centergenics, and I found Alan Mintz, and I found David Leonardo, and I found Alvin Lin, and you guys may or may not know these people, but they were godsend for me. Put me on growth hormone, testosterone. 7 months later, I'm 70 pounds down of fat, 30 pounds up on muscle. The lights came on, my energy came back, my passion for life came back. And I really felt like I had been given a completely different turn on life. And I went to the director of the emergency room, I gave him my resignation, and I said, I'm leaving. And he goes, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to open a bunch of clinics, and I'm going to treat guys with testosterone. Even though it's questionable on the legality of it, this is what I'm going to do. And I became one of the Centergenics people early on in Chicago. And he goes, that's insane. I said, maybe, but I'm going to do it. He goes, you think people are going to make cash for you? I said, I do. And I opened my practice, and 2 months later, Suzanne Summers walked into my office, and she goes, you're the only person in Chicago that's doing bioidentical hormones, but you're only doing it for guys. You need to do it for the women. And I said, okay. She goes, because if you treat the women, they'll bring their husbands. I thought, this is brilliant. She really is brilliant. I don't know how many people I ever had a chance to meet Suzanne, but her and I were friends for quite a long time, but she really transformed my journey, and I started doing bioidentical hormones, and I built a company called Body Logic MD. But what I want to talk to you all about, because I'm sure, because you're here, you've all had this moment, these aha moments that you have in your career. One of my aha moments was testosterone. This shit works. I'm going to go do this for everybody else. That was an aha. And then I called up my brother, and I said, because he always said, we should do something business-wise, since he's a business person. And I said, I called him up, he was in Hawaii, and I said, steroids. And he's like, what? And I said, steroids. We're going to go do steroids. And he was like, what? And it took him a little while, but he got on board with it. And this was 2002, and by 2007, we had built a company called Body Logic MD, which had 50 centers throughout the country, and it was one of the largest networks of physicians who were trained in giving hormone therapy, and we were quite successful at it. I left Body Logic because I'm a mathematician. I'm a computer guy. I'm a data analyst. I like data. And the whole goal was to build a software system with all these clinics and start gathering data. And he wasn't really interested in that. So I left the company. And because we needed a data system in this field, because everybody who, maybe even today, but years ago you had QuickBooks, then you had a scheduling program, and then you had a note-taking system, and then you had to go to every online lab to download all the results and analyze. It was a real pain to do it. So I built a company called Power to Practice, which is one of the EMRs in this integrative space that actually is very specific for what we do. And it made my job incredibly easy. And when we got it up to over 3 million patients, I decided, okay, I'm ready to leave, because I'm the startup guy. And so I left that. And we started up 27 different clinics called Forum Health, had a great time with that, but I decided that was enough of that for me, and I retired in August of 2022. This is when I got Dobry Kiprof's paper about PlasmaXchange, and it was phenomenal. That paper I got on August 30th, I got a little bit before the pre-release, and I read that article 12 times in the next 2 days. I analyzed the numbers, and I was floored, because in this world that we live in of age management, we all know that the 5 tenets are exercise, nutrition, stress management, sleep, and detoxification. And when you've been in the field for 25 years, as I have, you realize that the one area we do really not very well in, because we don't have anything that works, was detoxification. In the last 10 years of my career, I've been watching toxin testing on people, And 10 years ago, 70% of my clients had high critical levels of toxins. 5 years ago, 90% of my clients had high critical levels of toxins. This year, nobody was negative. And I will go over that data as well, but every patient I tested, and the fewest anybody had was 3. The most they had was 33, and this is out of the 100 toxins we tested. It's a growing existential threat to our existence in this world, period. Now we're seeing all these things with cancer in younger patients. We're seeing Alzheimer's worse and occurring in younger people, ALS, Parkinson's, and we see all the vets who are getting Parkinson's because of all the exposure they have to all these chemicals. And you start to realize we're not going to survive in this world. The toxins will not let us. But that's when I realized from this paper that I think I had an answer. So this is my current aha moment that we're going to share with you right now. Before I do so, there are a lot of people I need to thank for this, but 2 I want to point out really specifically. One is Dr. Jin Shi. He's a colleague of mine. He's a data scientist. He's eminently a data scientist. And if you know anything about Google Scholar, he's got a score of 78, which I've never met anybody with a 78. That means he's cited over 20,000 times. He's written hundreds of articles, but he's really good in the area of laboratory testing, biomarkers, and bioanalytics. And he was one of the persons I leaned on to, let's build this thing as we start to move it out. And the other one is a longtime friend and colleague of mine, Paul Anderson, who is, in my opinion, one of the smartest detoxicologists I've ever met. And what I mean by that is, what he's done for 30 years is come up with protocols on how to get all these various toxins out of people, whether it was heavy metals or pesticides or mycotoxins. Paul would have a various, and this was all science-based, and they would work. But they would be incredibly labor-intensive, as all of us know who's done this for a while. It's hard to get out toxins from people. And then myself, I'm kind of the data guy, but I think I've gotten a name in the field of being the guy who takes things and makes them into things that work. I like processes. I like to imagine how we can make this real, and then I go ahead and do that.